Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all good. Now, today I've got a very special guest today. I'm joined by an absolute legend of the game, Matt Le Tissier. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. And I wanted to start off by actually speaking a bit about before your football journey, like growing up for you. What sort of inspired you to play football? Who were some of your football heroes?
I had two massive football heroes growing up. The first one was Glenn Hoddle because I was a Spurs fan,
Yeah.
which is um, not going to probably go down too well with your your viewers. But the second one probably will because although I was a Spurs fan, I just loved good footballers, and my other hero was Liam Brady, who was one of the most talented left-footed midfield players I think I've ever seen. So I think those two were the reason why I wanted to become a professional footballer. Seeing what they could do with the football, I was always trying to copy. What they were doing, and so yeah, they were my two big inspirations.
Wanted to ask you about Southampton and what your life was like there, sort of on and off the pitch.
Yeah, so I came to Southampton back in 1985 as a 16-year-old, straight from school. I was put into digs with a family in Southampton, and that all went really well. The family were great to me. They took me in. They had two young boys in the family, and we all got on very well. So I was pretty lucky with that, and so that helped me settle into my apprenticeship at Southampton. The apprenticeship went really well. I think I scored 59 goals in the first season in the youth team, including 6 in one game against Brighton, I think it was. So that was pretty good. And then I kind of made my first team debut quite early on in the following season. So it was a really quick transition from just leaving school, doing your exams and all that kind of stuff, to just over a year later playing in what was the first division in those days, because I did play for 6 seasons before the Premier League started. So yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed my time in Southampton. The fans here have always been brilliant to me. They always were cheering for me very early on, even when I was a substitute. As a teenager, quite a lot. They're always calling for the manager to get me on the pitch, and they were one of the reasons why I stayed at Southampton, because they were just so really really good to me in my early days.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's amazing to see how the fans are a big part of football, and I think that's obviously so amazing. And I know as well when you were at Southampton, you had offers as well from other clubs. I mean, big clubs as well, like United and stuff. But what sort of made you stay at Southampton, even though you could have gone to United or another team?
Yeah, so there were probably three big opportunities that came my way. The first one was Spurs in 1990, and that was the only club that I ever spoke to. I had one meeting with them with my agent, and I was very close to joining them. And the only reason I didn't join in the end is because I was just about to get married, and my fiance at the time wasn't keen on moving to London. So I had to take that into consideration, and I made the decision to stay. And then a couple of years later, Liverpool tried to buy me. And then about 3 years after that, in 1995, Chelsea tried to buy me. And they were kind of the three big opportunities. I know that Manchester United, when Eric Cantona left, made some inquiries about possibly getting me, but were told that there was no chance of them getting me away from Southampton, so they didn't even bother trying to make a bid or anything like that. So, yeah, those were the opportunities. But I've always kind of enjoyed probably being the big fish in the small pond down here in Southampton. I always felt like I could play football the way that I wanted to down here. I think if I'd have probably got transferred to a bigger club, I'd have had to kind of fit in to their way
Yeah.
of playing a little bit more than perhaps I was allowed to do at Southampton, and had the freedom to do that because I knew I had the backing of the fans. And even when managers, and they did on occasions, leave me out the team, I knew that the fans were always on my side, and that it wouldn't be too long before I got back in.
I like that. I think it's amazing. I mean, loyalty in football now, I mean, I think you get the odd player who will stay and, be at the club. But I think it's sort of football's changed a lot since sort of the time you played. I mean, how do you know if you had to play in the game now? What do you think sort of changed? I mean, I know as well nowadays is like VAR and all the refereeing and all of that. I mean, a good point as well you made before about if you went to another team, you'd have to really fight for that place. It's reminds me a bit like Grealish at Man City, because when he was at Villa, he was doing really well. He was playing all the time, and when you go to a bigger club, it might be harder to get that playing time you would get at Southampton.
Yeah, I think it wasn't just the playing time. I was pretty confident that, with my ability that I could keep a place in the team. I think it was probably more to do with the way that I played, um, and the fact that I wasn't kind of a player that you could kind of shove into a formation and make him stay there. I kind of used to play the game, and I used to see how the game was going, and then I would kind of wander out of position a little bit because I just felt like the game was drifting in a certain direction and I needed to change the direction a bit. So that was probably more the reason why I stayed, as opposed to not really. I wasn't really thinking about game time, because back in those days, you've got to remember that the squads weren't quite as big back in those days, and there wasn't the rotation that was really going on that you get today. So I think one of the biggest differences today actually is the standard of the pitches that you play on. All through the season now, they're playing on carpets. The pitches are so well kept these days. We were playing on some pretty bad surfaces when we were going through the winter months, and it was a lot tougher to play football on pitches when you weren't really sure how the ball was going to bounce as it was coming to you. And so, yeah, I think that was a lot more difficult. I think the players nowadays have it so much easier, with the standard of the pitches, but also, the standard of the care that they get off the pitch. In terms of the physios, in terms of the departments that they've got at the football clubs that will monitor everything. All your output in training. All the science that is available now for them to go by. It's so much easier to succeed now as a footballer, I think, than what it was back in our day.
Yeah, I think it's so different now to then. I mean, I think another thing that I always think about is like social media as well, because I think it's amazing. It can be great to connect with people, but I always think as well as a footballer, if you know you're having a bad game or if you're going through a bad time and you have a lot of negativity online, it must be hard to sort of kind of, brush that under the carpet and ignore it. But how do you think you would be able to deal with that? Because like I said, you'd know yourself if you've not had the best game, and it must be quite hard to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, we were quite lucky. Yeah, we didn't have to deal with that side of things at all, really. And I feel a little bit sorry for the players in this day and age in that respect, because I think actually, if I was a professional footballer today, I don't think I'd have a social media account.
Yeah.
I think I'd wait till after I finished playing and then start with that kind of thing, because I think it's just an unnecessary distraction. Doesn't need to be there. It's not like they need it to earn additional income and all that kind of stuff, because they're earning enough money to see them through for the rest of their lives once they finish playing football. So, yeah, my advice to any professional footballer today would be don't get a social media account until after you finish playing. It
Yeah.
makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, I think if I was in their shoes, I'd probably do the same, because I think like the most important people are your family and your friends and the manager and your teammates to give you that advice. And I think hearing from other people obviously would be quite difficult. But yeah, that's definitely a difficult sort of aspect of that. And going back to your career again, how do you feel about everything that you've done? I mean, like, do you have any regrets, or do you feel very happy with how everything went for you?
Um, I really enjoyed my career. I had 17 years, and it was an amazing time in my life. It really was, and I don't have regrets in life.
Yeah.
Really, we all make mistakes. As long as we learn from them, then that's the most important thing. If I could change one thing about my career, I had a header against Italy for England at Wembley in 1997 in my last England game, which went just the wrong side of the post. If I could change one thing in my career, I'd probably want that to go in, and I might have gone
Yeah.
to the '98 World Cup. But that's a tiny little detail, and now
Yeah.
I don't have any regrets really. I loved my time playing football, and I like to think that I entertained a lot of people along the way, and
Yeah.
that was the whole point of me being a professional footballer. I knew I was good at football, and I wanted to show people what I could do. And I think if people are going to pay, hard-earned money to come and watch us play football, I think they deserve to be entertained.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And I wanted to ask you a bit about England because obviously we've had Southgate for a while and things have changed now. He obviously left and we've got Tuchel and I know in the media there has been a lot of criticism because it's not English and I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and the thoughts on him coming in and what you kind of expect from him to sort of achieve.
Well, obviously he's a very good manager. There's
Yeah.
no question about that. I think for me, the most important thing in it all is I think the rules need to be looked at, because I really do. I feel quite strongly that the manager of your national team should have the same criteria that the
Mm.
players need to have to play for that national team. I think that is, they're all part of one team. So why should the criteria be different for one part of the team than it is for the other? So I really feel like the rules need to be changed, and then you don't have any of these conversations really, because any manager, if you're managing your national team, I feel like you should come from that country.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense to me. And so I think the biggest point about it is that the rules need to be changed.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt he'll get us some silverware and success hopefully because we've been able to get to finals. It's sort of like getting over that line. It's been a bit of a problem, but I think it's obviously nice if your manager's English and they sort of they know sort of what it's like and. But I think for me, if we're getting success, that's obviously going to be amazing for us. I wanted to ask you obviously a bit about you working at Sky Sports, like in the media. When you were a footballer, did you ever think you would do that? Because I know sometimes when you're football, you might think after your career what you sort of do next.
Yeah, it was interesting because I didn't really have a plan.
Yeah.
I don't really make any long term plans. I kind of live day by day, week by
Yeah.
week. And so when I retired from football, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was quite lucky. I had a nice testimonial at the end of my career, so I had, a bit of money behind me, which meant I didn't have to jump into anything straight away. I could kind of um, take a little bit of a break and play lots of golf, which I've always done. And then the media stuff kind of fell in my lap a little bit.
Yeah.
Really, it kind of came to me as opposed to me going looking for it. And so when I started it, I didn't know that it was going to be a career for 15, 18 years, whatever it was. I just kind of thought, oh, this is all right. I quite enjoy it. I'm talking about football, which I love. I've just spent 17 years playing it. I kind of know what I'm talking about a little bit. And it was nice to pass on my experiences and
Yeah.
give any insights that I could give on life as a professional footballer. So yeah, to do that for 18 years was pretty amazing, pretty cool. And the team at Soccer Saturday were brilliant lads to get on with. Jeff and Tomo and Merce and
Yeah.
Charlie. We had a fantastic camaraderie there, and I think there was some great connections there, and a lot of people enjoyed the show and enjoyed the banter that we had. They enjoyed the fact that we could have a proper argument
Yeah.
on screen, and and still not fall out about it. We were just passionate about our teams, passionate about football, and it really was great fun. And I never felt like I woke up on a Saturday morning, and I
Mm.
never felt like I was going to work, which is a lovely feeling to have.
Yeah, that's nice is when you go in there knowing that you enjoy it. And yeah, those shows were always great. Like you said, you could always have an argument, but you all sort of respected your each other's opinions, and I think that's what was so lovely about it. But I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on today. I know we had technical difficulties, but I'm happy
No
we
problem.
got through it. But yeah, thank you so much for taking out the time to come on my channel.
My pleasure.
And yeah, to those that will watch this back, I hope you do enjoy this as well. And yeah, I will see you in my next video.